Ladies and gentlemen, drivers, gig workers, and everyone in between, welcome to This Week in Rideshare podcast. I am your host, Jared Hoffa. It is Friday, October 11th, and this week, Lyft entices drivers, Uber uses AI, and Tesla's big cybercab event. Legal Rideshare breaks it down. And from Legal Rideshare, I'm joined by the co-founder and lead attorney, Bryant Greening. Bryant, happy Friday.
Happy Friday, Jared. It's nice weather here in the middle of October.
Yes, it is. Nice weather in Chicago. Like we said last week, it's always nice, and we forget the brutal winter that's about to hit us. But for now, it's pretty lovely.
Thanks for reminding everyone.
Yes, reminding everyone in the Midwest. You guys all know. You know how it gets. But for now, it is quite pleasant. Now, before we do jump into this again, I want to give a shout out to the Gig Economy podcast. We're doing a little cross promotion with them. They announced themselves as an infotainment podcast that streams every week at 8 p.m. Eastern. They cover a lot of the same stuff we do. They talk about the news and the gig economy. They interview gig workers. And Brian, I know you've actually been on the show, and they've interviewed you about accidents and injuries. So we've had that as well, which is really cool. Check them out. The easiest way to find them. They are on YouTube as Gig Economy Podcasts. They're also on every other major platform as well. Great guys, and appreciate working with them. And as we said, Brian, you've been on there at least once, maybe twice.
Yeah, no, it's a fun podcast, good information, definitely worth checking out. We know that our viewers and listeners really like to keep up to date on what's going on in the gig economy. Talk about the trends, talk about anything that, the tips that might help them on the road. These guys do a really good job of putting that information out there. So definitely give them a subscribe and take note of what they're saying.
Yeah, so with that being said, we're going to jump right into the stories this week, and we got some interesting ones. We're going to start out with Lyft, who is improving pay for drivers. This is from Reuters. And they added, quote, Lyft is looking to make its ride-hailing platform more attractive to drivers by rolling out measures such as higher pay for longer than estimated trips and prioritizing members with a safe driving record. In its latest move unveiled on Tuesday, Lyft is introducing what they call Preferred Drivers Program, where members with a higher safe driving score will receive more ride requests, a new earnings dashboard, and electric vehicle rides that are linked to battery range. Drivers will also be able to see the estimated hourly rate for each ride to help decide if a ride is worth their time, and will get paid more for trips that are at least 5 minutes more than the estimated time. Brian, across the board, this sounds like everything drivers have been wanting for literally years. Tell me I'm wrong on that.
No, this is exciting news. As soon as I saw this article, I was really pumped. For drivers, I think it's a really smart move for Lyft. For years, they were seen as driver friendly and the good guys in the competition between Lyft and Uber. They lost that for a while, particularly around the pandemic and then coming out of it. And now it looks like they're taking a step back in the right direction. I love that they're prioritizing safety. We've talked for years about the fact that these companies have the ability to innovate, the ability to prioritize certain behavior, to incentivize certain behavior. And this is just one example of ways that they can do that. They're putting money in drivers' pockets to be safe. And the drivers who have the record for safety are getting incentives, and they're getting priority rides, and they're getting all these other bumps. And I think that it's a win-win-win for everyone, Lyft, the driver, the passenger. Let's add another win for the community, because it's safer drivers on the roadway interacting with the public. So I just think it's a great concept. I'm excited to see it play out. It can't start soon enough. Bravo here to Lyft on a good idea. And hopefully we hear from drivers soon who are getting the benefit of this program, so we can get some feedback on if it's actually playing out as well as it sounds like it will.
Yeah, that's why I'd love to hear from drivers about this once this rolls out. I'd love to hear from Lyft drivers and see if it is everything that they're saying it's cracked up to be. I think that's really important. This could be, and I don't want to jump too early and make too many predictions, but this could really be the split between the Uber and Lyft world that we know. Uber is really leaning heavy into autonomous and more automation. And Lyft seems to be, again, as you had pointed out, going back to being pro-driver and helping the drivers, which ultimately helps the rides. And I think as time goes on, I think this, especially this next year coming up, next 12 months, we may see a huge split where Uber really is focused on, how can we get the drivers out of the seats, and Lyft really might be focused on how do we help the drivers get more rides and make more money so we make more money.
Right. And on that point, I think it's important to bring up that this could be really beneficial for the company's bottom line. So if they're putting more rides with safer drivers, the people who have the best safety records, that's going to mean fewer accidents. That's going to mean fewer assaults. That's, when you have the right drivers providing these rides, that's a real benefit to the company in terms of liability, perhaps in terms of insurance costs. So this is a smart business move. It doesn't just benefit the driver. And we're not sitting here. Look, it is not our goal to take money out of the pockets of Uber and Lyft or any other company. We would love to see them thrive, but not at the expense of the driver. And here, I think they found a system that could really benefit both sides. They can lower some of their operational costs, some of their expenses, while putting more money in the driver's pocket. Everybody wins in that scenario.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, again, this, I'm sure we're going to hear more about this story. I'd love to hear from drivers about it and really see how it benefits. And over time, we'll definitely see that, I'm sure. We're going to head off into the second story here. Very different. Uber is using AI for EV, and this is from Reuters. And they added, quote, Uber Technologies will roll out an AI assistant powered by OpenAI's technology to help drivers transition to electric vehicles as part of its efforts to lower emissions. It will provide personalized answers tailored to the driver's city and eligible incentives, the company said. They said they will also expand the chatbots used to answer queries beyond EVs in early 2025. They are saying about 180,000 Uber drivers monthly are moving to EVs in North America and Europe. So again, night and day situation here. Not necessarily a bad thing, but Uber is saying we're going to have chatbots and OpenAI to help transition drivers into the EV. They are really pushing EV right now, Brian.
Yeah, they've made a lot of commitments to a greener environment, a greener company and trying to cut down emissions. Because look, let's face it, any company that thrives on transportation is probably not great for the environment in the current state of the automotive industry. So they've made promises to governments around the world that they're going to try to, cut down on emissions, do everything that they can to transition drivers to EVs. And frankly, I think that's ultimately a good thing. We want to see the companies prioritizing environmental, safety and when you're a company like this, you've got a responsibility to the globe. The key is how are they going to do this in a responsible way that helps drivers, doesn't leave drivers, high and dry or unable to continue their work. A lot of drivers can't afford a new car. Buying an EV can be expensive. So if anything that they can do to help educate the driver, help assist the driver is good. I wish that, look, I understand that AI is the future, and in a lot of ways it's here. Chatbots affect us in pretty much every interaction that we have on the web. Generally speaking, over the years, Uber's customer service has been lacking for drivers. There's always complaints about not being able to get a real person on the phone, or when you do, that they don't really say anything or do anything to help. I'm a little skeptical that the chatbot is going to give the drivers the assistance that they need in this regard, but who knows? AI is getting better and better, so I'll keep my mind open. But ultimately, we just want to make sure that drivers have the support that they need, and if they need to talk to a person, hopefully that's an option.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little asterisk here because they even say in this article, if you really kind of read between the lines, it says the company will also expand the chatbots used to answer queries beyond EVs. So they're kind of hinting at, look, we want to get rid of human customer support for drivers and just have a chatbot answer everything, which, as we know, is not a great answer. Drivers are already struggling trying to get a hold of a real person for deactivations or other issues, payments. And so, but it sounds like Uber is kind of quietly sliding in. Yeah, if this works for EVs, we may continue to deploy this to a point where you're never talking to a human ever.
Right.
And we know how that goes. It hasn't been going very well for drivers in that sense.
It really not. I've heard those calls as part of my cases. I get those recordings sometimes, and I hear that, the customer support is really not all that helpful. They give very general answers. They don't give specifics in specific help a lot of the time. And you hear these drivers on hold for, an hour sometimes, just trying to get some sort of response, whether it is a deactivation or a payment issue or, God forbid, an accident. So, I think the chatbots can be helpful in terms of expediting the process, but we want specific answers. And I'm just not sure that the AI is going to be good enough to help a driver who's in a stressful situation get the answers that they really need. So we'll see, but I'm not optimistic.
Yeah, likewise. We will see as always. And now we're going to head to our final story, the big one of this week, Tesla's cybercab event, which was short on details and long on promises. This is from Forbes. This article is very interesting and very detailed, but I'm going to go into some of it here. And they explained, first off, they said their exact words here are, quote, few details were provided. The robotaxi, also known as cybercab, is a two-seater which will eventually cost around $30,000. It will use wireless inductive charging rather than the Tesla's NACS connector. Individuals will be able to buy them and operate fleets to make income, but no details on this were provided, and Tesla no longer operates or press offers to answer these questions. And they even said, in reality, Tesla's FSD is still in very primitive shape. It's about the safety level that Waymo was in 2016, and Waymo is now only starting to scale 8 years after that. So, Brian, it goes into a ton of detail about where this robotaxi is. It was a lot of bells and whistles, but in the end, it's saying they're 8 years behind. It even goes into, Elon talking about how this can save money as a robotaxi on its own, but really it isn't. Again, people should really read this article in the Forbes article. It just came out, but I'll definitely give you a minute to weigh in.
Yeah, I think this just proves that these companies who are trying to push autonomous vehicles are really talking a lot. They see that there's an opportunity here for innovation. They see that there's an opportunity for a lot of money, and certainly eventually that will be the case. I'm not blind to the fact that we're probably all going to be riding in autonomous vehicles at some point in the not too distant future. But I don't think, as this article's showing, that we're there yet. I think that people like Elon Musk talk really loudly, they talk really generally, but get people excited. And then when you pull back the veil, or perhaps in this case, lift up the hood, you see that there's just not much to it at this point. The technology is behind. The technology gets in crashes, as we've seen around the country in places where autonomous vehicles have been deployed. So, this was meant as an event to get people really excited. And I think people who just read the headlines of it, maybe that was the case. But as soon as you dig into it a bit, you see that the technology is not there. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of money. It takes a lot of, implementing these vehicles onto the roadway and testing and tweaking. And I don't see that we can responsibly put autonomous vehicles on the road and replace drivers now or in the next year or probably in the next couple of years. Let's, in a decade, maybe, but stop trying to push these things until they're ready.
No, exactly. And Brian, they even, again, this article is really fascinating because they also discuss, this guy really goes into detail about all the things that Elon is talking about. Even Elon saying, hey, you can make your money back and you can run your own business as a robo-taxi and you can rent it out like Airbnbs. And he even explains that doesn't really work in this process because basically, as we discussed, you can't, as an individual, won't be able to make a lot of money. What will happen is these fleets will be bought out by Ubers and Lyfts, and they'll just take them over, and there won't be a lot of opportunity for a driver who wants to, rent out their car. So there's just a lot going on here. It's exciting, and they said, look, there is some opportunity, but they've also did say, as we discussed, and they confirmed it, that, look, they're 5 to 6 years behind. The way that they're doing the neural networks it's not that safe yet. So it's kind of what we were already saying that yes, it's fun, but guys, you got a lot of work to do, and they're also not approved in any city or state right now to do full self-driving like Waymo is. So they got some ways to go.
They do. And there's just so much at risk here. Like that, when you're dealing with vehicles like this that are operating on the city streets, it's not just, you know, do we have the technology in a place where we can put it on the road and it's not going to run into poles, or it's going to understand when a car in front of it stops? The risks are life and death. How does it react if a kid jets out from the sidewalk chasing after a ball? Does it have enough reaction time? How does it respond if there's something that, like an emergency vehicle behind it? Does it know to pull over? I'm concerned that there's so much going on the streets that it needs to learn so much that it's just, it's going to take time, and it's not a rush. I understand that business people want to make money and want to be first to implement. I'm not blind to the entrepreneur motivation and to the financials here, but ultimately we have a responsibility to the community, and that means not letting things that can cause serious damage, serious harm out onto our roads before they've been tested, approved, licensed, and everybody feels comfortable with the risks that we're taking.
Yeah, 100%. We know these cars are coming. We know this is the future, but you've said a million times before, rightfully so, it got to be safe. If it's not, it's just going to become a real major issue. And I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see what they end up doing. We'll see how Waymo progresses as they're going city to city. It's a lot. It's a lot happening very quick. Time will tell, as I like to say. But that is the stories this week. Brian, I will give you the last word before we head off into the weekend.
Yeah, always remind everybody that if you find yourself injured in an Uber, Lyft, or other gig-related activity, consultations are always free at Legal Rideshare. We want to help direct you to, take the right steps to ensure that you get the best outcome possible in your insurance claim. We help drivers, passengers, victims, anybody who's injured in this space. We're available. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us. The cases do not get better with time. We want to be able to collect evidence. We want to be able to talk to witnesses. We want to open up insurance claims as soon as possible, so you don't, fall through any cracks and miss any opportunities or regulations that you need to. So please visit us at LegalRideshare.com. All of our contact information is there, and we're always happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. And as I like to say, that is the end of this week in Rideshare. See you next week.